Flowers like their hymn. You will find a way home, little blue. Be my anchor, oh, be my light, my compass star. Be my darkness, be my danger, oh, be the strings of my guitar. Little blue, how I love you. Something strong, sweet and betrayal in your eyes, so dear and gentle. Oh, there's a home that leads me back to you. 'Cause you're not so far away. I hear you say you never walk alone. Singing, don't be afraid of the dark in your heart. You're gonna find a way to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. You're gonna find a way. Don't be afraid of the light. It's alright. You're gonna find your way to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. You're gonna find your way home. You will find a way home, little blue.
Sehr geehrte Frau
Dear Mrs. Tsikhanouskaya, Minister Liminski, Mayor Deus, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends of democracy.
for me to welcome you, Mrs. Tsikhanouskaya, and her husband, Mr. Tsikhanouskaya, here in Bonn today. Dass so viele
The fact that so many prominent figures from the city and the state have come here shows how pressing the issue of democracy and the rule of law has become again in our present day. On behalf of our executive board and board of trustees, as well as the numerous supporting organizations, I am particularly pleased to see such lively participation from political stakeholders, and I warmly welcome the members of the state parliament, the members of the diplomatic corps, and the members of the council and administration of the city of Bonn and the Rhein-Sieg district, namely the chief of police, Mr. Höfer, and the district administrator of the Rhein-Sieg district, Mr. Schuster.
international guests, it's a great pleasure to have you here. Ebenso
I'm also delighted that so many members of the region's universities and research institutions are interested in this event, as are the members of the United Nations Association of Germany, the churches, non-governmental aid organizations, associations, federations and educational institutions, including Mrs. Heck-Böckler, the state representative of Amnesty International. Deutsche Welle has been and continues to be one of our most active supporters, and I am delighted that Mrs. Barbara Massing, who, may I still call her the new director, is embracing this culture and is also here today. I would like to express my sincere thanks to the Jazz Choir of the University of Excellence of Bonn, one of our most important support organizations, which is providing the musical backdrop for our event. The university is among the top-ranking universities in Europe, and its jazz choir is just as successful, having won the gold medal at the Aarhus Vocal Festival, an internationally renowned vocal competition. Ladies and gentlemen, political action and political rule today are bound by a claim to humanity that took concrete historical form in the modern era with the advent of the human rights ethos and has found, at least in declaratory terms, recognition and form in the principle of democracy in our time. Subsequently, justice and human dignity have become integral components of our constitutional and legal order in today's liberal democratic state in Germany. This makes the global developments back towards autocratic systems, the aggressive disregard and undermining of political and social participation rights, and of the welfare and culture state and the rule of law in a growing number of countries around the world, all the more disturbing. With unprecedented force, questions about supporting courage, commitment, and even the fight for democracy and the rule of law are therefore taking center stage in our everyday reality. Fighting for democratic elections and a global peace settlement requires foresight, rationality, expertise, commitment, and courage in many places. And it should come as no surprise that, in the face of growing fears of a complexity that has become almost impossible to comprehend, gross simplifications and false messages are now spreading. We all live under the same sky, but we do not all have the same horizon, as our much appreciated first Chancellor Konrad Adenauer once said. And you have to look at things so deeply that they become simple. And that brings us to our mission in awarding the International Prize for Democracy and the Rule of Law in Bonn. We have clear goals to support and show solidarity with those who, in the midst of difficult and often dangerous trials, are courageously fighting for human values, human dignity, democracy, and the rule of law in their countries. At a time when fundamental democratic values are coming under increasing pressure, not only in distant autocratic states, but also in the heart of Europe, your commitment, dear Mrs. Tsikhanouskaya, is a wake-up call. It reminds us that freedom, the rule of law, and democracy cannot be taken for granted. They are promises, promises that must be defended, lived, and claimed anew every day. Democracy means more than free elections. It means that people can live in dignity, without fear, without censorship, without state violence. It means that every person has the right to express their opinion, to assemble, to get involved, and that governments serve the people, not the other way around. The rule of law is the backbone of every free society. Whenever there's arbitrary rule, when courts are not independent and the media are not free and opposition figures are not safe, there is no democracy, only abuse of power. And that is precisely why it is so essential to turn our attention to places where human rights are treated with contempt and to amplify the voices of the brave. This is the founding purpose and mission of our association, the International Democracy Award Bonn. We take this message into schools and organize lecture and discussion nights with local universities. And today, together with the state of North Rhine-Westphalia and the city of Bonn, we are presenting this prize as the highlight of our work. Mrs. Tsikhanouskaya, you did not go into politics. Politics found you. Through the injustice that befell your husband, your family, and your people. And you did not turn away. You took up the burden, and in doing so became a beacon far beyond the borders of Belarus. It is therefore a matter of deep personal importance to us to have the privilege of presenting you, Mrs. Tsikhanouskaya, with the International Prize for Democracy and the Rule of Law here in Bonn today. Today we honor you, but we know that this award is also a reminder and a warning to all of us who live in democratic societies. The freedom in which we are gathered here today is a gift and an obligation at the same time. An obligation not to look away, an obligation to show solidarity, an obligation to protect what we have often taken for granted. Ms. Tsikhanouskaya, your commitment is an enormous responsibility, and you bear it with an attitude that is deeply impressive, clear, peaceful, determined, human. On behalf of everyone here today, and in solidarity with all those in Belarus who are not allowed to speak freely, to assemble or to vote, I would like to say thank you. Thank you for your steadfastness. Thank you for your hope. Thank you for your courage in not bowing to cynicism, but believing in human dignity and in what is good and just. It makes you a worthy addition to the line of award winners that you have seen in the photo series, with the first laureate being Václav Havel in 2009. This prize belongs to you, but also to all those who hope, fight, suffer, and never give up alongside you. Thank you very much.
Sehr geehrte
Dear Mrs. Tsikhanouskaya, Minister Liminski, Professor Dзвonnek, honorable members of parliament, I've just seen some former colleagues of mine, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, District Administrator of the Rhein-Sieg district. As mayor of this city, I'm delighted to be able to address you today at this special venue and on this special occasion. For the first time, the city of Bonn, together with the state of North Rhine-Westphalia and the International Democracy Prize Bonn Association, is awarding the newly created International Prize for Democracy and the Rule of Law Bonn. With this award, we are honoring a person who, as an independent civil rights activist, presidential candidate and opposition leader, works tirelessly towards a free and democratic Belarus with great courage, strength and determination. Her work is largely representative of the many people who are doing everything in their power to end the arbitrary rule of the Belarusian state apparatus. I certainly do not wish to preempt Minister Liminski's laudatory speech, but allow me, Mrs. Tikhanovskaya, to express my utmost respect for your political commitment and my sincere thanks for coming to Bonn today to receive this award in person. The venue for this award ceremony, the former plenary hall of the German Bundestag, stands for the history of democracy, for transparency and openness like no other place in Bonn. At the same time, this place also symbolizes the transformation of our city from the former federal capital to the federal city and second political center of Germany, and to a place for international dialogue and exchange. As part of the World Conference Center Bonn, WCCB, national and international meetings and conferences are held here these days. Right next door, in the former high-rise building of the German Bundestag, the United Nations have taken up residence. The name Bonn, then and now, stands for internationality, cosmopolitanism, multilateralism, and for the pursuit of a peaceful, rules-based order. This rules-based order is now in grave danger. Democracies around the world are under great pressure from within and without. Autocracies and dictatorships are gaining power and influence and are in the process of redrawing the world according to their own ideas. We are currently witnessing what this new order looks like in our immediate neighborhood in Ukraine, where countless people have fallen victim to Russia's imperialist ambitions, and where the Ukrainian army is defending not only Ukraine's territorial integrity, but also our European values. Belarus, too, has been ruled autocratically by its president Alexander Lukashenko for over 3 decades. Opposition figures and demonstrators are politically persecuted and often imprisoned in inhumane conditions. This makes it all the more important to support civil society and promote democratic development in Belarus. The city of Bonn has maintained a partnership with the Belarusian capital Minsk since 1993, although this partnership is currently on hold due to the political situation. Nevertheless, it is important to maintain contact with the people of Belarus, many of whom do not support the regime there, despite and precisely because of the political situation. I would therefore like to express my sincere thanks to the Minsk Club Bonn for its efforts at the civic level to support the people of Belarus who are committed to freedom, democracy, and the protection of human rights, thereby also contributing to democratic development in Belarus. Let me conclude with a quote from our federal president, Frank-Walter Steinmeier. These are profound changes that are putting Europe to the test. This makes it all the more important that we Europeans now stand together, that we reflect on what unites us, what has guided us in recent decades, and that is solidarity among European states, our values, our fight for human rights, the rule of law, democracy, and freedom. Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, our democratic order cannot be taken for granted. It must be defended and brought to life every single day. This requires role models who provide guidance, strength, and hope. On behalf of all of us, I would like to thank you once again, Mrs. Tsikhanouskaya, for your dedication, your courage, and commitment to preserving democracy and the rule of law. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Sehr geehrter Herr Oberbürgermeister,
Mayor Deus, Professor Dзвоннек, District Administrator Schuster, members of the State Parliament, representatives of the Consular Corps, ladies and gentlemen, but of course, dear Sviatlana, Miss Tsikhanouskaya, dear Sergei, Mr. Tsikhanouskaya. It's so great to have you here in Bonn today. If there's one place in Germany where human rights, democracy, and the rule of law have become visible, it is, and as a local patriot, please bear with me, it's Bonn. Here in the old plenary hall of the German Bundestag and its predecessor buildings, the Hofgarten, in many places of the city, decisive moments in our democratic history in Germany have taken place. And it means so much to us because it's the successful democracy in Germany. For example, Konrad Adenauer was elected the first federal chancellor here in a free vote. Or I'm thinking of free voters here, free protesters who in 1981, just a few hundred meters from here, demonstrated against the NATO double-track decisions. And I'm also thinking of freely elected members of parliament that debated here the major issues of their time. I'm thinking of the Western integration and rearmament, the Ostpolitik, etc., things that were pressing at the time. Bonn is really breathing this spirit of a society that cherishes freedom and responsibility and has never taken these things for granted. Not least because, looking back in our history, we were never allowed to take these things for granted. This is why it is the right place to talk about the state of democracy and the rule of law in today's world. And if we're being honest, it's quite sobering. Autocratic regimes are using the weaknesses of democracies, or rather the weaknesses of Democrats. Propaganda pushes back on open debate. And in many places, violence and arbitrariness are replacing the rule of law. And this is not happening in some far place. It's not abstract. It happens very close to us, also on European territory. And it's very palpable, very specific and concrete. Human rights are universal rights. And if they are treated with contempt, it affects all of us. This is why we need strong advocates for human rights. And I'm very delighted personally that so many of you here share this view, this awareness, and have come here today on the second Sunday of Advent. Thank you very much. That is exactly why we launched a new award last year, the Bonn International Prize for Democracy and the Rule of Law. Ms. Dзвonnek has said it before. This award combines two previous awards, the Rule of Law Award, presented by the state government since 2022, and the Bonn International Democracy Award, presented since 2009. With our forces now combined, we want to send a signal from this very special place and its meaning in history. We want to send a signal from Bonn and say we see how authoritarian regimes crack down on critical voices, and we stand in solidarity with those who refuse to be silenced. We give a stage to those who have given a face to democratic movements in their home countries. And today we are awarding this newly established prize for the first time. And I can hardly think of a more worthy first recipient than Sviatlana Tihановskaya. At the beginning of 2020, Ms. Tsikhanouskaya probably would have never thought she would end up in politics. We recently met in Münster and she told me about this, and just a few months after that, millions of people rallied behind her commitment for a free and democratic Belarus. Your step into the public eye was a reaction to the injustice that befell your husband and many other people in Belarus. He was imprisoned when he ran or wanted to register as a candidate for the presidential election, and you did not turn away. You decided, full of courage, to run in his place. And you didn't have a sophisticated political program, but a single demand that touches on the core of every democracy, that the people of Belarus should be able to vote freely and fairly. This simple demand, but such fundamental demand at the same time, moved many Belarusians. And this made the outrage all the greater when the regime brazenly manipulated the election and Alexander Lukashenko declared himself president once again. Hundreds of thousands of Belarusians took to the streets to protest against this. And they did so peacefully, even when the regime began to crack down on them with brutal force. We have all seen the images of women in white dresses confronting heavily armed police officers in black combat gear. And sometimes it seems a picture can say more than 1,000 words. White freedom fighters against black regime fighters. This basically says everything you have to know about this fight. You, Mrs. Tsikhanouskaya, represent all those people who did not want to be deprived once again of their right to decide their own political future. The students who formed long chains of solidarity, the women who stood protectively in front of men, and the factory workers who went on strike and protest. You have given all these courageous people a voice and a face. The way the regime responded to the protests was brutal. Since 2020, more than 7,000 people have been convicted for political reasons. Around 1,200 of them are currently in prison. Torture and isolation are part of everyday life for many of them. More than 800 associations, media outlets, political parties have either been banned or dissolved altogether. Hundreds of thousands of people were forced to leave the country. And when all critical voices in a country are either behind bars or abroad, it is clear that under such conditions, any election is a farce. Consequently, the presidential election at the beginning of this year was also a sham election. We have to call a spade a spade. This is dictatorship. It's not an abstract concept. Dictatorship is not abstract. It can destroy lives. Your husband, Mrs. Tsikhanouskaya, had to experience firsthand what that means. When we met 6 months ago in Münster, you told me about it. How you hoped for a sign of life from him. You longed for that. And this is why I can only repeat it time and again. This is why it's so special to us that you are both here today and that we have reason to celebrate together with you. Thank you very much. Many, far too many brave women and men are still sitting in Belarusian prisons today. I'm thinking, for example, of Ales Bialyatsky, the Belarusian Nobel Peace Prize winner. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison simply for documenting war crimes, human rights violations, and abuses of power in Belarus for decades. That was everything he did, just documenting. I think of Andrei Porchobut, who was sentenced to 8 years in prison for reporting as a journalist on the violent police crackdown on peaceful protesters. Just that, he just reported. And I'm thinking of Maria Kolesnikova, one of the icons of the protest movement, with whom you, Ms. Tsikhanouskaya, spent weeks on the campaign trail. It is our moral and political duty to stand by these courageous freedom fighters as long as we have to.
The Minsk regime doesn't only threaten their own citizens, it also threatens the peace order in Europe. In the summer, that became very clear to me when I was at the Polish-Belarusian border to visit the border installations there, where in the past there was cooperation, which was the order of the day. There are now tank barriers. Poland is rightly focusing on protection and deterrence since Lukashenko made himself Putin's henchman in order to secure his hold on power. We must not forget, on the 24th of February 2022, the Russian army also invaded Ukraine from Belarus. With a new military doctrine, Lukashenko has allowed the Kremlin to station nuclear weapons on Belarusian soil. And the Belarusian regime is supporting Russia's hybrid war against the EU by exploiting defenseless migrants and sending them across the border to Poland and Lithuania. It is therefore clear that the Belarusian state is participating, sometimes more directly, sometimes less directly, in Russia's campaign against Ukraine and the European peace order. But it is against this picture of state repression and aggression there is another Belarus. There is a Belarus that refuses to give away their own future. A majority of the Belarusians reject the war. Some men voluntarily join forces to fight alongside the Ukrainian armed forces in the Tsikhanouskaya regiment. And Belarusians in exile are also showing great commitment. Whenever people take to the streets in Germany to demonstrate for a free Belarus, they also stand up for Ukraine, as can be seen from the many blue and yellow flags. When I was at the Polish-Belarusian border and I saw the fences and barricades, I felt what people from Germany, I'm sure, would feel when they were standing there. We had to think about walls that there were in Germany in the past as well. But we know from our own history that walls can fall. System differences that seemed to be impossible to overcome were overcome. In the GDR, in Poland and other Central and Eastern European countries, people managed to free themselves from the lack of freedom. It is this experience that gives us hope that Belarus, too, will become a free country and join our European family. And in order to pay tribute to history, I'd like to say that today, 50 years ago, it was that Willy Brandt fell to his knees in Warsaw to beg for forgiveness for the crimes committed by Germany in the Second World War. And one thing that isn't reported that much, but is more within the collective memory, is that many of these crimes were committed on Belarusian territory, a country which suffered so much. And it is our responsibility to not forget this suffering, to not allow this to happen. Since the Second World War, the people in Belarus were spared from open wars, but peace has not brought freedom. Not even when the Iron Curtain was lifted and the proverbial wind of change blew through many other countries in Eastern Europe. You, Mrs. Tsikhanouskaya, once put it this way: Belarusians have been denied freedom for so long that they have almost forgotten what it feels like to be free. End of quote. And who looked towards Belarus in the summer of 2020 saw that the people of Belarus ultimately fought for this feeling of freedom themselves through their own efforts and strong solidarity, and this cannot be eliminated anymore. This can be seen in how the fight for a free Belarus continues, partly underground in Belarus, and above all from exile, by people like today's award winner, like you, Mrs. Tsikhanouskaya, who never tire in their commitment also after your husband was released. You travel from capital to capital to mobilize support. You are trying to hold together the various democratic forces in Belarus. And you insist that Belarus can follow a path independent of Russia. And this is so tremendously important because it inspires hope to those people in Belarus who still hope for freedom and democracy. And because they don't have to accept being called naive dreamers. It is possible a different Belarus. And with the award today, Bonn shows that they're standing by our side, and also North Rhine-Westphalia shows solidarity. And we do that on a daily basis, not only during a day like this one. Many opposition figures and civil society activists, including journalists, students, and cultural figures, have found refuge here. We organize events such as today's to draw attention to the human rights violations in Belarus. And Belarus is also a topic of discussion in the North Rhine-Westphalian government, where we show solidarity with the Belarusian democracy movement. And we're going to continue on this path. I would like to thank you, Mrs. Tsikhanouskaya, on behalf of all Belarusians who are committed to democracy and the rule of law. I have 4 children myself. I'm a father. I can hardly imagine what it must have meant for you as you have 2 children yourselves. We've been talking about that a moment ago. Your commitment goes along with great hardship and challenges. And you do that in exile, far from friends and family and your home country. But you do it with a strength, an inner strength that is contagious. And you have our utmost respect and support. And we stand, when we'd like to express our gratitude, we stand in solidarity with you as long as it's necessary. Thank you very much.
On behalf of the International Democracy Prize, together with the state of North Rhine-Westphalia and the city of Bonn, we are awarding Mrs. Tsikhanouskaya the International Prize for Democracy and the Rule of Law 2025. Congratulations. Und ich möchte noch den Inhalt der Urkunde.
And I'd also like to read out the deed. The International Democracy Prize Bonn Association, together with the state of North Rhine-Westphalia and the federal city of Bonn, honors the achievements of Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya with the International Prize for Democracy and the Rule of Law Bonn 2025. With this award and a prize money of €10,000, we honor Mrs. Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya's outstanding commitment to a free and democratic Belarus. Her courageous work represents the many people who are doing everything in their power to end the political tyranny of the Belarusian state apparatus. Thank you so much and congratulations.
So, Oberbürgermeister Deus, Professorin Dзвоннек, dear Barbara Massing, Herr Minister Liminski, vielen Dank für Ihre freundlichen Worte. Ich sage immer.
Thank you very much for your kind words. I used to say that the fight for freedom is a joint fight. We need allies. and many of you are sitting here in this room. Thank you very much for this ceremony of democracy. Thank you very much for this important award. It is not mine. It is to all the Belarusians who keep fighting for freedom, for justice and peace. We Belarusians are deeply grateful for the solidarity shown and for your support. Not only for a free Belarus, but also for Ukraine. Because we all know that you in Germany know that freedom comes at a price, and how easy it is to lose it, and how difficult it is to recover it.
Dear friends, this award was received by many remarkable people and my personal hero, Václav Havel. You know, Havel also called himself accidental politician. And it was his work for theater that helped him to prepare for that new role. And you know what prepared me? Being a mother of 2 kids. You learn crisis management, how to negotiate, and how to work with very little sleep. You know, it's very symbolic for me that this ceremony takes place in Bonn, a former capital and the birthplace of Beethoven, but also of the famous Haribo bears. My children will appreciate this fact more than anything else. You know, Bonn was the first city in Europe to become Minsk Twin City 32 years ago. And I dreamed that my Minsk will one day be like Bonn, democratic, thriving, and peaceful. A place where even the dogs on the Rhine seem to enjoy a healthy work-life balance. You know, we Belarusians can really learn a lot from Bonn, including your great sense of humor. I have heard you kindly call your city the Bundeshauptdorf. And we also share some delicious, because your Reibekuchen and our Draniki are practically twins too. We all know that Bonn, once the capital of free Germany, was a beacon of hope for East Germans living under tyranny. For us, Belarusians, today this beacon is the European Union, the place where we find home, hope, and the family. And of course, today it might sound like a distant dream, but such a dream is worth fighting for. And when you fight, when you tirelessly work for what you believe in, you always succeed. For 5 years, I was fighting for my husband. He was in solitary confinement, isolated and tortured. I was thinking that I will never see him alive. But today, he is with me, exhausted but not broken. Please give me a round of applause to him. Yes, Sergei's release is my personal joy, and I want all Belarusian families to feel the same. That is why we continue to fight for all 1,300 political prisoners who remain behind bars. And I hope very soon we will see all of them free, including our brave Masha, Maria Kolesnikova, with her red lipstick and endless energy. I hope we will also see Ales Bialiatski, who received Nobel Peace Prize while in jail, so one day he will get this prize in person. Ales Bialiatski always said that democracy and security go together, and you cannot have one without the other. And Belarus shows this very clearly. A government that mistreats its own people will never respect its neighbors. So if you want real and lasting peace in Europe, we must make sure that tyranny never has a place on our continent. Dear friends, today I want to ask you to stand with Belarus, with our political prisoners like Ales or Masha, but also, most importantly, to stand with Ukraine. Because Ukraine today is fighting for all Europe. The fates of our countries are intertwined. If Ukraine is strong and Russia is weak, it will open a new window of opportunity for Belarus as well. You know, dictators Dear friends, yes, dictators might seem invincible until they suddenly collapse. As it happened with Berlin Wall, with the Soviet Union, and recently in Syria. We don't know when and how it will happen in Belarus, but it will definitely. And we must be prepared for it. So, liebe Freunde,
Dear friends, peace without freedom is not peace, Konrad Adenauer once said, and he was right. We must always fight for both, for freedom and for peace. We must stand united against tyrants who attack our values and our dignity. I firmly believe that Belarus will be free. And one day, I'm convinced of that, Maria Kolesnikova will come to Bonn and make an appearance at your wonderful Beethoven festival.
so lasst uns diesen Moment
So let us to make this moment come. Let's work for this together. Thank you very much.
So we think we really live apart, 'cause we got 2 legs, a brain and a heart. We all belong to everything, to the octopus suckers and the buzzard's wing, to the elephant's trunk and the buzzing bee's sting. Stuff coming out, stuff going in. I'm just a part of everything. I'm just a part of everything.
Just a part
of everything. Coming out, I'm going in.
Yes, please. I'm coming a little bit closer. Wow, this is heavy. Okay. First of all, good luck for your work, and I could not say congratulations to this prize because I think that's something you, yes, deserve, but nobody wants to get a prize for the work you do because you want a different situation, obviously. So the most important step would be to make this kind of prizes senseless, which we are far away from. But I noticed you kept your humor. That's great to see. Is humor something that also keeps people in Minsk and in Belarus a little bit alive in this dark era?
First of all, thank you everybody that visited this wonderful event. It's a real honor for me to receive this fantastic award for Belarusians on behalf of Belarusian people. Of course, during uprisings, during revolutions, resistance, we have to be very creative and have to be very inventive and use all the possible tools and methods to keep a regime in stress and strengthen society, strengthen our moods. And of course, humor always played a huge role, always against dictators. And our wonderful artists, drawing caricatures on dictators, people in the social media making different funny stories about dictatorship. So it really, when you fight for democracy, because sometimes, fight for democracy often romanticized, wow, wonderful people fighting for democracy, but this path is paved with tears and sufferings and, and pain, and you need something that keep your spirit up. And the sense of humor, of course, is one of the tools that people use, to keep strong.
I can confirm, because one of the best-selling shows of Deutsche Welle in Russian is actually a satire show, Sviatlana, which is a great deal, and obviously it works also in environments that has not fun at all the whole day long. But on a more serious level, what is the situation of the civil society, of so-called opposition in Belarus right now? Is there any? What is the move of people?
For these 5 years political path or career, I realized that people who live and enjoy democracy for many, many years, they forgot, or they don't understand how people live in dictatorship. In the countries where you don't know your borders, where you don't know what is available, what is not, you don't know what you can be put in prison for, what not. For example, if you buy a Christmas present to a child of political prisoner, you might be punished you can be put in prison for 5-10 years. If you say just usual words, I'm against the war, you can be put in prison. If you wear white, red, white colors, that is the colors of our national flag, you can be put in prison. Even if you speak Belarusian language, you might be put in prison as well, but it's our national language that is, written in the Constitution. So, and you get used that in democracies, if you're in opposition, it means that you're in party that's not in power at the moment. But in dictatorship, it's usually ordinary people, society, nation that is opposing to a person who seized power, and with the fear, with repressions, with the support of other dictators, they keep society in constant stress. So, of course, Belarus now looks like Gulag. We live like in Stalin's time repressions, and people live with the constant feeling of fear. And even those who left the country because of repressions, we also understand that we are targets of the regime. We are going through transnational repressions where if we are active abroad, our relatives are intimidated. In Belarus, our property confiscated. We are getting constantly the threats from the regime. We cannot renew our passports, so many, troubles. But what is very important here, that under this fear, under the fact that every day people are detained in Belarus for their anti-regime or anti-war or pro-Ukrainian position, people are not giving up. Yes, you don't see big, beautiful rallies on the streets, but resistance is there. It went underground. It is done by small acts of sabotage. People who live in fear, they leaking information to free media for them to see what is happening in Belarus. Even people who work in the system, they're providing us some data, very important data. Also, underground partisan movements still exist, and if there will be necessity, we will see acts of sabotage on railways again, for example. So I'm really proud of Belarusians. 5 years, it's difficult, it's long period, difficult fight. Our beloved, our friends are in prison, many had to flee, but we are not losing this hope, because we understand that we will not save our country now, this time, from Lukashenko and from Putin, and we will allow dictators to sell our independence to Russia, we will lose our country. So we're like in the safe mode at the moment, but we are preparing for new window of opportunity.
Thank you very much for sharing these insights, because that's, I think, really important to understand that part of this misuse of power is really this big uncertainty, where I'm going to go to be allowed or not, and constantly shifting rules in the absence of a rule of law. You mentioned also that our relatives abroad are targeted, for instance. You said that there is a diaspora of Belarusians in Germany and in North Rhine-Westphalia particularly. Are you observing them under this? In other words, are they on your radar when it comes to potential influence or threatening against Belarusians in exile?
Of course, they are secure here, and they know how to be in contact with our police administration. I see the police president here from our region, here from Bonn. He knows about that, but also in other cities like in Düsseldorf or Cologne, where we have not just diaspora communities, but very active diaspora communities who also show themselves. I mentioned in my speech that every time when there is a demonstration for Ukraine, you normally have the Belarusian people with them and the other way around. So they support each other in their fight for freedom, and they show themselves, which also means that they expose themselves to the public. And what I think is very important is not just the security issue about police, but also the public support. And so, for example, when I see here today many regional politicians, but also local politicians, I see, for example, the head of the parliamentary group in the parliament from Cologne, Mr. Josten of the Social Democratic Party there. He's with me on many demonstrations for Ukraine, and many for the Belarusian people as well, but also I see members of our regional parliament like Romina Plonska, who is the spokesperson for those issues in our regional parliament. And I think it's so important that those groups like them over there, they know that they can be in direct contact with politicians. This is also a way of protecting them, because it shows that we are supporting them not just from the national level, which can be sometimes very abstract, but also from the local and regional level. There are politicians who care also about their cause. Although it's far away, although it's foreign policy, they are caring about them and their cause. And this is what makes this meeting here today so special, because we see that it's an all-partisan support, and over the different layers of democracy, local, regional, national, European as well. And it's so important that we make the case for them.
Yes, so support on all levels is important. Thank you. You recently were in Berlin and you visited the newly created parliamentary group for democratic Belarus. It was a launch event in the German Bundestag, and you had also a talk to Mr. Wadefuhl. So far, what did you tell him?
So, first of all,
Former journalist,
I really
pardon me.
want to say the words of gratitude to German governments and German parliamentarians, for all these years' support. Because definitely the fight for Belarus, our victory is obligation of Belarusians themselves, but no one war and no one fight cannot be won if you are alone. And Germany, alongside many other countries, were like very big and reliable partners and allies during our path. And as I said, that Belarus unites. Belarus unites people, unites parties, unites politicians, and we always, whenever who is in the government, what part, we always felt huge support and solidarity. And the fact that new group for Democratic Belarus in Bundestag is launched means that Belarusian topic will be high on agenda. With previous group for Democratic Forces of Belarus, in Bundestag, a resolution on Belarus was adopted that gave, the course for German policy regarding my country. Minister, we met him before he became minister. Now he's also, aware about what is happening in Belarus. But when he's in the government now, our requests are rather simple and very difficult. On the other hand, we are asking to keep the policy of Germany and European Union principled and firm. Mm-hmm. We ask all the countries to keep pressure on the dictator Lukashenko, and on the other hand, support people. We ask to put more sanctions on the regime, to isolate him politically, isolate him economically. Don't allow any incomes to go to the pockets from which the war in Ukraine is financed. Mm. Or military people are paid, those military people who are torturing and kidnapping Belarusians. On the other hand, it's very important to support people. It's very difficult to feel abandonnedness, to think that you're alone on this battlefield, but Germany is supporting our media. Belarusian service in Deutsche Welle was launched. Very important, to show the truth to Belarusian people all over the world, but also in Belarus. Scholarships and internships for Belarusians are launched by many institutions and organizations in Germany. Our Belarusian diaspora is supported here. We have very important Belarusian organizations here that are working, fantastically. So many, small and big steps are important to give us energy to continue. It's difficult when you're alone, but when you feel that governments and parliaments and ordinary people, ordinary citizens, feel a little bit, responsibility for what is happening in Belarus, it gives us, usual boost of energy to continue.
Thank you very much. It's to widen. Before we come back to the week of human rights in North Rhine-Westphalia, in which context this is happening here, to widen a little bit the scope, is it so important for the EU and Germany to keep up pushing on the regime also because of the newly formulated positions of the US? I refer to the visit of Special Envoy John Cole to Minsk, which led to free some of the prisoners, yes, but in turn, obviously, the visit was driven by business interests. So the position of Europe should be different than the one on US, and you see a danger in the US position towards Lukashenko's regime?
So first of all, I have to say that we are in constant coordination and communication with the American side. When President Trump appointed Special Envoy John Cole, Special Envoy in Belarus John Cole, so the first call, was to me, it was political decision because they, of course, understand who is Lukashenko, that he's keeping power only thanks to support of Russia and thanks to repressions. But what President Trump personally and his government is doing, they are trying to release people. We call it humanitarian track. We have to save all those who are suffering behind bars for 5 years and more. People are dying there, And Americans at the moment have the leverages on Lukashenko, have power to release all those people. And the demand of President Trump himself that Lukashenko, you have to release all 1,300 political prisoners is very influential. But simultaneously, we understand that there is a political track, both for the USA and Europe. Our country has to become a source of good neighborhood. We don't want our country to be a security threat to our neighbors, to European Union, first of all. So while releasing political prisoners, we have to demand from the regime that you have to step down to organize free and fair elections in Belarus and to become reliable partners and neighbors for all the countries. People want democratizations. People don't need you anymore. So it should be demand to the regime. That's why we are asking our European partners, first of all, because security importance for our region, that you have to hold your cards, for bigger game, for irreversible and consistent changes in our country. So supporting humanitarian efforts, we have to put more pressure on the regime, because the regime wants to persuade European countries, look, Americans are doing this, this, and that, you have to follow this. It's not about normalization. It's not about returning to business as usual. It's about human being, but our political goals are much broader.
You stressed the humanitarian aspect of all these politics, but on another note, it was said before also, Belarus is not only a discussion about humanity and human rights, it's a security issue for Europe. Ms. Minister, is that something that still needs to foster a little bit in our awareness, what role Belarus is playing in the geopolitical security sphere?
It certainly is. I mean, if you look at the threat coming from Russia to the European Union, most of it is done via Belarus. So I sometimes wonder why Belarus is such a blind piece on the map for many journalists and many politicians. Well, certainly it is because we don't know as much, because Lukashenko was successful in really locking it up so that we don't get as much. And this is why your work is so important, because it always, again, creates attention, also management attention of the political leadership to the situation in Belarus, but also to the implications it has on security issues for Europeans in other European countries. And so when it comes to energy, when it comes to hybrid warfare, disinformation, but also the nuclear threat, but also military threats, now the hybrid warfare with migrants, I mentioned it in my speech, it's all done, at least also by Belarus. And so that's why we have to focus on that situation, and we have to help the movement there to bring democracy and freedom back to this wonderful and beautiful country.
Would you say that formally it is, but under the line, would you say that Belarus is still an independent country?
Look, de jure, we are independent country. De facto, of course, all our spheres are subjugated by Russia, and it is being done with allowance of Lukashenko. Lukashenko is ready to sell our country, our sovereignty to Russia, just for political and economic backup. Just he wants to stay in power. He's ready to erase our history, to erase our national identity, just to stay in power. So, of course, his 30 years
that sounds like Ukraine.
Absolutely. In Belarus, Russia is doing the same what they're doing on the occupied territories of Ukraine. And it was constant policy of Lukashenko. He always pushed our country into the Soviet past, Soviet Union past. He is the most Soviet person in Belarus. People want to return to European family of countries. We are under Russian ego only 200 years. Before, we were part of European alliances. And that's why we are a European nation. We want to be part of you. And I'm so grateful that at last, after 30 years of dictatorship, and after 30 years of being blind spot on the map of Europe, we hear from our European allies that Belarusians, you are welcomed, you are ours. We want to help you to return to us, and we want this process to be as smooth and fast as possible. So that's why, of course, we are already now working on the future partnership with the European Union. So, and our society is like consolidated about this question. We are European. It's not like maybe in Russia where you have to, where maybe society is splitted, I don't know. But in Belarus, majority against Lukashenko, for Ukraine and for Europe. Mm.
You can go both in Russia and in Belarus in jail when you watch a DW YouTube video. The channel is forbidden, our websites are blocked. Nevertheless, we have 90,000 followers on our YouTube channel, most of them from Belarus, proven. And most of them are women. While, thank you very much. Well, you are all Gen Z, so you know social media, and you know that YouTube finally is a male-dominated medium, constantly to IGTV and TikTok. But are women still the backbone of Belarusian opposition?
You know, in our movement, we have, of course, you know, both men and women, and we have people of all professions and all the ages, so it's really grassroots uprising. But definitely, Belarusian revolution is called a revolution with women face, because of True Women in Front and many women initiatives. When our men were beaten harshly in the first couple of days of the beginning of our uprising, these were women who went in front, you know, in wonderful white dresses with flowers, showing that we are a peaceful nation, we don't want, you know, any blood, and stood in front of this, you know, brutal policeman. And since then, I really see that women maybe are more ready for marathons, you know, for long distance. Maybe because there is much less competition between women, we are ready to support each other. Most of us are not fulfilling like some personal ambitions in this work, and maybe because we understand that we want to build a country for our children. These mother instincts, you know, are very powerful in us, and we want to dismantle this regime and to provide our children future without tortures, without dictatorship, you know, without wars. And that's why we are like struggling maybe more intensive. But of course, I don't want to undermine the importance of men. But yes, I think that in Belarus, in future Belarus, there will be even no questions about gender equality, that women can take, you know, a very important political and role in the societies, because what we had to prove, we already proved, you know, and this, you know, slogan that, you know, women's place is like, how you say, Kirchen, Kinder, and Küchen, yeah. You know, it's not for Belarusian women anymore.
Mr. Liminski, thank you very much. Sviatlana, thank you very much for these insights. Good luck, and hope to see you back here, speaking as the president of your country and still mother. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. Yes, that's great. Thank you very much. I think there are final words now from Ms. Dзвonnek. Yeah.
Ja, hochverehrte Festversammlung, wir haben
distinguished guests, We have heard a deeply touching testimonial of the right ideas regarding a free Belarus. We all in this hall wish you, dear Mrs. Tsikhanouskaya, a lot of support, a lot of success in your fight. Stay brave and upright. You will always have supporters in Bonn. And we have your back, so to speak. Come back if you need some more inspiration and if we can lift up your spirits. But I would also like to thank all the supporters we had to organize this event. First of all, the Glasfachschule Rheinbach, who designed our stele. It's a stele that stands for transparency, dynamism, and for perseverance regarding democracy. Thank you very much, Mr. Rupa, for the work of his colleagues. And I would like to thank the many helping hands of our association and of the World Conference Center Bonn. You did a great job. We are not that large in numbers, but we stood together, and we always should. And there are some organizations that supported us, the University of Bonn, and I mentioned Deutsche Welle already, but there is the Press Club, the Studienstiftung, Haus und Grund, and the Rhein-Sieg district, the savings banks, and the Volksbank, who support us in our work regarding this awarding ceremony, but also throughout the year in many small and bigger events. I would like to thank you all. And I wish you that you have a pensive but also a wonderful time, and that you can enjoy this second Advent. It's nothing we can take for granted that you come here to support Mrs. Tsikhanouskaya in her combat. Thank you to all of you and have a wonderful evening.